Welcome along to part 2 of our video series where we are creating a little game called Flying High in Scratch. In the first part of the tutorial we got our little guy flying across the screen, so I'll just run it now. We can move up, down, left and right. Too easy. We've got clouds and buildings moving in the background there to give the illusion that he is actually flying, and we've also got little hearts that we can collect and earn ourselves an extra life. Okay, in this tutorial what we're going to do is bring in a couple of good guys and bad guys that we can collect. And also get some score on the board. Alrighty, so the first thing we want to do is bring in a flying unicorn. This is going to be one of the good guys that we collect to earn some points. So we're going to make a new sprite, and I don't know where this one's going to be. It's in flying there, so if you look into the flying theme you'll see the unicorn. Okay, so bring him in. Comes out fairly large, so what we're going to have to do is shrink him down to an appropriate size, something like that'll be good. And I want to flip him around so he's facing the other way, because he's going to be flying from right to left. So in the costumes tab here, don't touch where he's positioned on the page, you need him in the center there, but just go across to this tool here, flip left and right, and just click it once and it will flip him around the other way. Okay, so now you can position him somewhere on the right hand side of the page. Okay, that's probably a good size and a good starting position. Alright, so what we need to do to get this guy moving is we're going to go over to our events tab and bring out when the green flag is clicked, like we always do. And we're going to do similar code to what we did to get the buildings and the clouds moving. Okay, so I'll do it from scratch just so you're aware of what we're doing. First thing we're going to do is set his X position to 250 when he starts. Now that sets him just off the page somewhere over here, so you can't see him, and then he's just going to fly onto the page. Alright, so remember our X coordinates stop at 240, so if we set him to 250 he's just going to be positioned off the stage when he starts. Next thing we're going to do is change his Y position. Okay, so we're going to set the Y position. Now we want the Y position to be anywhere along the Y-axis pretty much. We don't want him off the page though, so we can only just see his head fly across the page or have his legs fly across the page, so we might position him, well, we know it's 180 at the top and minus 180 for the coordinates at the bottom, so we might go to operators here, and we'll get it to start in a random position between minus 150 and 150. Okay, so that way he starts somewhere along the page on that Y-axis. Okay, we're not going to have him cut off at all. Okay, so that's a good start. What we're going to do then is get him moving. Okay, and the way we did that before was we used this repeat loop, or the for loop, and we're going to repeat it 100 times and change his position. So change X position, so change X by, in this case minus 5, so it's going to be basically moving at the same speed as the buildings and the clouds. Alright, so that can be attached to here. Now we want to put this in a forever loop, so this piece of code is always repeating and that unicorn is always moving. So in your control tab, grab your forever loop and wrap it around it. Alright, so let's stick him at the top there. Press play and have a look at how that goes. So he's moving along with the buildings there. That's the issue again we're having. He's moving at the same time as the buildings and he's always stuck on top of a building. At least he's moving in different positions, which is good. I do want him though to appear at different times to the building. Alright, so what we might do is just wait 1 second before he comes out on the page. Okay, and when he disappears off the page we might make him wait between say 5 and 10 seconds before he reappears again. So what we're going to do when he hits the edge of the page over here, we're going to hide him. Okay, so in your looks tab here, just choose hide and put it at the bottom of your forever loop. And then in your control tab, we're going to wait. Not 1 second, we're going to go to operators and get it to choose a random number between 5 and 10 seconds. Okay, so he'll come back after 5 to 10 seconds. Okay, when he does come back, we need to show him again because we've just hidden him. So in our looks tab, you'll need to get him to show again, so put the show up here, just at the start of our forever loop. So let's try that again now. Oops. We had him show up at the start. I don't know if you noticed that, but at the start here, because of this wait 1 second, he waits on the page for 1 second and does nothing, then starts moving. So we're going to have to hide him before he does that wait 1 second. So now he's hidden. Fly across the page after 1 second, and then it will take between 5 and 10 seconds before he comes back onto the page. Any second now. There he is. Alright, so that's working all well and good. We've got our unicorn flying across the page. Now we want to be able to collect some points when we run into him. Okay, so what we're going to do is go up to our events tab here, and choose the when the green flag is clicked, and it's going to be another if statement, if then statement, sorry. So bring out your if then statement. We want to work out if the cat is touching the unicorn. So go to sensing, choose touching, and change the mouse pointer to the cat. So if a unicorn is touching the cat, then we want to get some points. So let's change not lives by 1, but score by 1. So change score by 1. Now it'd be also nice to hear a sound with that. So let's go up to our sounds here and choose another sound. We don't want the pop. If we go to effects here, look for fairy dust. That's probably a unicorn kind of sound, I guess. And we'll put from the sound tab, play sound fairy dust underneath, changing our score there. Alright, so if the unicorn touches the cat, then we get 1 point and we play the sound fairy dust. Then we're going to hide that unicorn. So as soon as they collide with each other, we want it to disappear. Okay, that's easy enough. And we need this piece of code looping over forever throughout our game. So in your control tab, grab your forever loop and just wrap it around it. Okay, we want that code always listening out for when our cat and unicorn collide. So let's try and collect our unicorn now. Let's see if we get a point. Yep, our score's gone up by 1. We'll just try and collect the second one to make sure that he does come back on the page after we've hidden him. Our lives are working fine. Any second now, there's a unicorn. And there we go, we get 2 points. And you notice that he does disappear as soon as we collide with him as well. Okay, so that's our unicorn code, looking quite good. We might move on. The next one we're going to bring in is another good guy that's worth more points, but it's going to be more, it's going to be rare to see him appear on the screen. So what we're going to do is load in a new sprite and choose the flying theme again. And we're going to choose this butterfly 2. You can choose butterfly 3 or 1 if you want, but I'm going to go with butterfly 2. Again, a bit too big. We want to make him pretty hard to collect, so make him nice and small. And you want to go to costumes and flip him around again. So don't touch where he's positioned, just choose that flip left and right option there to flip him around so he's facing the correct way. Now the code for this is fairly similar to the unicorn. So what we're going to do is simply pick up the first part of the unicorn code, drag it and drop it on butterfly 2. Pick up the second part of the code as well, drag it and drop it onto the butterfly 2. I just want to change the name of butterfly 2. I want to get rid of that 2 on the end. We only got one butterfly, so we might as well call it butterfly. And now in this code, we can start to make it a little bit different from the unicorn. Okay, basically, we want to wait about 20 seconds before our butterfly first appears on the screen. Okay, remember, this is going to be worth more points, so we want to make it a bit more rare to appear on the page. So we wait 20 seconds before it comes across the screen. Everything else in there is looking pretty good. The only thing I'm going to change is down the bottom. Once that butterfly does fly across the screen and hit the edge of the page, we're going to wait a bit longer than 5 to 10 seconds before it comes back. Okay, we're going to wait between 15 and 30 seconds, I reckon. That way it's just a little bit slower before it comes back on the page. You should see a couple of unicorns come through before this guy comes back. Okay, and the other thing we need to do down the bottom, when the the butterfly is touching the cat, we want to change the score by 3. Okay, and we might play a different sound as well. So what I'm going to do is just delete that play sound fairy dust. Okay, we don't want that in there now. We're going to bring in a new sound. And the sound I'm looking for is going to be right at the bottom. Okay, there's not many good sounds in here. Actually, it's not right at the bottom. I might go to effects. Then it's right at the bottom. It's called the zoop. So make sure you're in the effects category, and we'll bring in the zoop, just a nice quick sound. Now you can go to your sound tab, and where it's got play sound zoop, drag it and drop it underneath where we changed the score. So now when we click the butterfly, we should hear a little zoop sound. So I'm just going to run that for a moment, because it does take a little while for it to come out. It takes 20 seconds before we see that first butterfly. So when we see that butterfly, watch the score at the top. Hopefully it goes up by 3 and it does disappear off our page. Okay, so I'll just fly around for a bit, collect the unicorn. Okay, we should be getting close to the 20-second mark, so we should be able to see the butterfly. There he is. The score just went up to 4. So we did get the 3 points for the score. So that's good. That's our butterfly all coded up already. Nice and quick when you can just duplicate that code straight on to the butterfly. So now we need to bring in a bad guy. Okay, and the bad guy we're going to bring in today is a dragon. So let's make a new script up, a new sprite. And let's try flying again, and you should see this little dragon. Again, he comes out too big for our page, so use your shrink tool to shrink him down to size. That looks pretty good. And go to your costumes and flip him around. There is a second dragon there that blows fire. If you'd rather use the second costume, by all means go for it, but I'm just going to stick with the first costume in this tutorial. Okay, so what we're going to do, similar code again to get this dragon moving across the screen as what we had on the butterfly and the unicorn. So I'm just going to go back to my unicorn and drag both the code on top of the dragon, so we get both codes on the dragon there. Alright, so let's have a look. When we start, we're going to wait, let's wait 5 seconds before the dragon comes out. So it's a little bit different time to the other ones. Okay, we don't want everything to appear all at the same time. So I'm going to wait 5 seconds before our dragon comes onto the page. His original starting position will be just off the stage, which is good. He picks a random Y position, that's all good. This is all good. Let's just change this weight down the bottom. I want these dragons to come out fairly frequently, because we want to make it quite difficult for our player to collect a big score. Okay, so between 1 and 5 seconds before our dragon will come back on the screen. Okay, now down the bottom here, if the dragon is touching the cat, we're going to lose points. Okay, so instead of getting 1 for our score, what we're going to do is put -2. So we're going to lose 2 points if we get hit by a dragon. Now the sound that we're going to play, fairy dust is no good. We want to have a different sound. So I'm going to go up to my sounds tab here. I'm going to look for chomp. Okay, you can play it and have a listen to it if you want. With chomp in, what I'm going to do is change where it says play sound fairy dust to chomp. Okay, the other thing we need to do in this section is take a life off our lives variable up here. Okay, when we hit a dragon, we want to lose 1 of our lives. So in the data tab here, where it says change lives by 1, drag that in and change it to -1. Okay, we want to lose 1 life. Alright, so that's looking pretty good. Let's give it a crack and see if our dragon's moving across the screen. Remember, it takes 5 seconds for him to come out. Just watch our lives when I run into this first dragon. Bang, we've lost a life. Alright, I just have to turn my volume up so we can hear if we've got sound. We should hear the chomp sound when we hit that dragon. Yep. Alright, so we've lost lives and we also hear the chomp sound. So that's working well. Okay, now I want to make it a bit harder. Instead of having that dragon move across the screen all the time, what I'm going to do is make more dragons appear as the game goes on. So we're going to create clones of that original dragon. Okay, so what we're going to do, we're going to make a new event up. This is where we get a little bit tricky, but it should make sense still. We're going to, in the control tab, we're going to wait for say, I'll say 10 seconds into the game. And then we're going to create a clone. Okay, so down the bottom of the control tab, create a clone of myself. So it's basically saying create a clone of the dragon. And we want to wait 10 seconds, as I said before that first clone appears. Alright, might even make it a little bit longer than that. We'll make it 15 seconds. Okay, so let them play the game for a little bit and build up their score and lives first, then we can start to bring in some more bad guys. Okay, so we're bringing in the clone. Now I don't want too many clones. Every 15 seconds I don't want more and more and more clones to appear. So what I might do is put a for loop or a repeat loop around this and just repeat it 5 times. So we get no more than 5 bad guys on our screen. Okay, so that's going to create a clone hopefully. So I'll just run the game again. Let's turn my volume down. It's a little bit too loud. So there's our first guy rolling across. That's all well and good. Hoping we can see maybe 2 dragons on the screen at the same time to show that we have got a clone appearing. So we should see a couple come out now. There's one. Geez, it's hard to tell. I'm sure there is a second clone there. There we go, there's our new one. Okay, so that's what I was waiting for, our new clone. He's not doing much just yet, he's just sitting on the page, but that is our clone working. Alright, so what we need to do now is get him moving. Okay, and to make him move, it's basically the same code as what we've got here. So we need to stay in the control tab and bring out the little tag that says when I start as a clone. So when this clone starts, we're going to tell this clone what to do. Okay, so basically we're going to duplicate this code. Actually, we don't want to hide it. Maybe the forever code will duplicate. So duplicate that forever code and put it underneath when I start as a clone. So when the clone starts, he's going to be shown up. He's going to appear just off the page. Should be all well and good. It's going to pick a random Y position. Now what I'm going to do is speed him up. Okay, so what I'm going to do is change the repeat here to 50 and changing the X position by -10. So he's moving twice the speed now of the original dragon. It's just going to make it a little bit more difficult. Okay, everything else should be okay. So we wait between 1 and 5 seconds before the next dragon appears. Now that 15 seconds I had before was probably a bit too long. I'm going to change it back to 10 seconds. So I'm going to wait 10 seconds before the extra bad guys appear on our page. Let's have a look, see if we can get that going. So we'll have to wait 10 seconds before we see these extra bad guys appear, but they should be moving twice as fast as the original dragon. So that's the original dragon on the screen. There we go, we've got a fast dragon now tearing across the page. Okay, so it's getting a little bit harder. We've got our original dragons still on there, plus our faster dragons. Okay, and maybe to distinguish the difference between the two, we could change the color of these faster dragons. And the way we do that, we just go to the Looks tab here, and down near the bottom we've got Change Color Effect by 25. You can drag that out. It's just a matter of playing with this number to determine what color you want. If I write 150 in, I think it makes it like a pinkish kind of color, so we'll have a look at that. But when it starts as a clone, so the clone is going to change its color effect by 150. So let's keep an eye out for a different colored dragon tearing across the page now. There we go. So he comes out as a pinkish kind of color. So that's looking good. I don't think there's anything else we need to change there for the minute. What we need to do now is make sure that he can have a collision with the clone and lose lives. Okay, so it's basically this code all over again, just with the clone. So what I'm going to do is in my control tab, scroll down and bring out the when I start as a clone again. And I'm basically going to duplicate the code. Might have to clean this up a bit. I can scroll over and have a look. So when I start as a clone, if we touch the cat, then we change the score by -2, change the lives by -1, play the same chomping sound, and then we hide him. Alright, so now when we run it, I know you must be getting sick of me testing this game, but we need to run into the extra bad dragons and make sure that we lose a life. So we should see one come across the screen in a sec. Bang. So we lost some points and we lost a life. Alright, so that's working. So that's our bad guys done for the game. What we need to do now is tell the game that we've finished when we get to 0 lives. Okay, so that's going to be done with an if-then statement. Alright, so we need to bring out, we're still in the dragon here, we need to bring out the if-then statement. We need to count how many lives we've got. Okay, so what we're going to do is go to operators. We're going to bring in this equal sign, and we need to work out if our lives are equal to 0. So in that second box you can write 0, and in the first box just bring out the variable lives and drop it in. So if our lives are equal to 0, then we just want to tell the game that we're finished. So what we're going to do is go to our events here, and we're going to broadcast a message to the rest of our game saying we've ended our game. Okay, so broadcast the message end. Okay, now this piece of code needs to go inside this forever loop, which takes lives off us. Okay, so after the hide there, just drag that code into there. So it's always going to be listening out, because it's inside the forever loop, it's always going to be listening out for when our lives are equal to 0. When they are, that's when we broadcast the end of the game. Now this code also needs to go in where the clone is here. So simply right click on the if statement and duplicate it and move it up. You might have to scroll across here. Move it up and put it below hide in that little clone script. So now if the clone takes off our last life and it ends up being 0, then we broadcast the end of the game. Alright, so now that we know that it's the end of the game, what do we want to actually happen when it's the end of the game? Okay, we need to bring out this box here that says when I receive message 1, we'll change message 1 to end. So when the program receives the broadcasted message, that's the end of the game, we're basically going to go to control, and instead of saying stop all, we just stop other scripts in this sprite. Now that little piece of code can be dragged and dropped onto every single sprite. Okay, you want every single sprite to stop when they receive that message that it's the end of the game. Alright, so I'm just going to right click through these now and just clean up the code on each of them. Let Scratch clean up the code for us and just sort it out in a neat order. Alright, I think that could be it. Let's run the game and have a look and see if everything's working. Okay, so we know we can fly. We know we can collect the unicorn and get ourselves a point. The buildings and the clouds move fine. The little dragons move across the screen fine. Let's collect another unicorn. We can get a life and build up our lives. Let's try and lose those lives now. Okay, so we lost 1 for hitting that guy. We'll lose 1 for hitting that guy. There's our butterfly that gets us extra points. 1 more life lost, and it's game over. Okay, just freezes there though, and it doesn't actually tell us that it's game over. Okay, so what we might do is just go back to our dragon here, and we might display a little message saying that it is actually game over when we're finished. So we need to go to the cat. That's what we need. When it receives the end message, we're going to stop the scripts in the sprite, but we're also going to, where is it? It's in looks. We're also going to say game over. Alright, let's clean that up again. So when I receive the end message, we're going to get the cat to say game over, since he's our main character. Then it's going to stop all the other scripts on that sprite there. So I'll just quickly lose these 3 lives so we can see if it says game over. Here we go. There we go. So game over. Everything's frozen, and that's the end of our game. Alright, so as far as I can see, everything's working well. I know it was a long tutorial, but hopefully you've got the idea now on how you can fly. Make sure you file and save that. You're all finished.